And so what you'll find is that both of us are not going to say build a business, because that's not passive. Building a business is probably one of the most active things you can do, because you have to really think about how to get the business up to the point where it is a franchisable, scalable, sellable model. And so what I would do in that case, I would start studying, how can I acquire passive income? Based on what I know right now, that comes in the form of passively investing into other people's assets, like you said before, like whether it's a business deal or an apartment complex deal, real estate deal, or whatever type. The people that we've had on our podcast are perfect examples. People that have built successful businesses or that run real estate deals successfully, I'll actually become their investor.
You're listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. It's about time that we invest more in our financial literacy and work towards building generational wealth. If you think you're ready to do the same, then you've come to the right place. Alex, Marlon, y'all ready? Let's get this bread.
What's good, everybody? It's Alex Camus here. We are back with episode 138 of the Money Monopolizers podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Marlon Walls. Marlon, how you doing today?
Man, I'm doing good. I don't have too much on that update, but I think everything's going really well. Overall, I know last episode we talked about how things may not be going well forever, but I would say just in the general scheme of things right now, life is pretty good. How are you enjoying being 26?
Oh, man. It's a blessing, for sure.
I see it. Hold on. Hey, if y'all looking on the camera right now, y'all see this gray hair popping out of his chin?
Chill out. I ain't got no.
Oh, man. Yeah, bro. I see some OLD over there right now, man.
Some what?
OLD. Spell it out.
Nah, but I've been enjoying it. It's cool because it's kind of like, it's funny because we was talking about earlier, and now kind of later into our episode, like thinking about like knowing what we know now, how we would approach things back when we started this financial freedom journey. And it's just like, man, it's like you gotta like, at the same time, you're like thankful for like everything you've experienced, but at the same time, like, man, I wish I did that at that time. Because it's just like, if I'd have did that then, I'd already be here right now. So it's kind of like
2020 hindsight on steroids,
man. And you know it would like happen, like even at that time, but we just didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. So it's like 4 or 5 years ago, we could have said, yeah, this is the best route, but you make decisions based off of what you think is the best thing to do. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing is just taking action, doing something and not doing nothing, which is the worst thing you could do. Imagine you did nothing, you're still in the same place, then you really have a regret. Because
the thing about doing something is that you get to learn from it. Because all the things that we know now is because we learned so much from taking action and doing things. Had we not done anything, we would know absolutely nothing and still be in the same position that we were at 21.
And that's always an interesting thing to wish that, like, dang, I wish I would have did this at that time. But even if you did, you wouldn't know what you know to make it
appreciate it
at that time enough to capitalize on it.
Correct.
If that makes sense. You would have to know what would have been like the alternate universe. You would have to know what would have happened in the current universe and back then. So
that's why the question usually isn't if you had to go back and do it differently. It's like, if you knowing what you know now is the beginning of the conversation. If you had to go back and do it again, that's how you would answer it, because otherwise you wouldn't make the same decision that you would make today, because you don't have the same knowledge that you have today back then.
And that's what, I don't know. I really believe that. I'm a believer of the fact that there is another universe.
Yes, you want to see it too. I know.
Where you literally make a different decision and there's a different. I think there's an infinite number.
I'm about to say, there's going to be a lot of them, though. It could be like, I decided to go out to the to McDonald's this day versus staying in to go to the gym.
Any little decision creates a new universe.
Right. So yes,
any decision. So it's an infinite amount of them.
For sure.
Bro, you know how small we are? Like, we're not going to get into it, but we're just very small in the grand scheme of what the universe actually is. So it's like, I don't know, but I would like to believe that there's an alternate universe. But I'll ask God that whenever it's that time. Hopefully not anytime.
Where's everybody else at?
What you mean?
That's where you're gonna ask God. Oh. Where's everybody else at? You was hiding us all on this one planet.
Yeah, bro. Like, come on, bro. I know it's other. Come on. So, but nah. I'm happy and blessed to be 26. Got 4 more years to be 30. So, and then life is over.
Obviously, I think that's really how you think in the back of your mind. 30 is like if you haven't made it by then you tripping.
If I'm not where I'm at by 30, I must have been tweaked out. So yeah, man, that's kind of how I'm feeling. But yeah, what we'll do, like I said, we got a good episode for y'all today. So what we're gonna do is transition into our business updates, and then we'll kind of get into what we really want to get into this episode. So
it's time. Keep them posted.
You want to kind of kick that off as far as like how things been going for you?
Yes, sir. So past, I mean, a lot has gone on in the business in general. I think last week I mentioned that how we hit that milestone of hitting 6 figures, and we're looking to really, I mean, we've talked about it before too. Like a lot of things have been in regards to growing the business through like acquiring different, going to different lenders and being able to acquire funding to be able to get more cars in our fleet. So there's like 5 of them that I learned about. We actually have 2 of them that's already under contract now. So I think last time I mentioned, I wasn't able to, a couple of episodes ago, I was talking about like how one of the things that was stopping us was that we couldn't, like we would get the applications. I had to go back and reevaluate that because it was not that I wasn't taking action. It was a really more a matter of we needed things that we didn't already have in our business. And that means I had to take a step back. I can't submit the application because I don't have this information. Now I need to go get that. Let's say like financial statements. Let's say we need to have just a certain like the list of vehicles that we've already operated with. And a lot of the problem is that we have a lot of partner vehicles. If we have more of our own vehicles, I think a lot of this stuff will be easier, but now you have to include their insurance. It's a lot of little things that delay actually taking action. Also, before I continue on, I'm in a rental car business. I know you were thinking that. So,
I really wasn't wet.
Okay. And so somebody listening is like, yo, he didn't say it again. But rental car business, me and my dad started this a couple years ago. Been doing it for 2 years. Grew our fleet to 24 cars this year. And we're looking to continue to expand. But right now we're trying to expand primarily by leveraging our business and while at the same time thinking about how to service the other industries outside of just the peer-to-peer space or just like the business to consumer space, trying to really create a new stream of income within our current business and that allowing us to be able to continue to build that moving forward. So that's kind of the conversations that I'm having. So like as we transition to moving and running offline fully, having that system really built out, we're having the software, insurance, and all that. The website is already built, but it's like I want to have a way to funnel traffic to it and everything. Like in regards to marketing, continuously having conversations with those businesses and things like that. So a lot of moving parts that doesn't have anything to do with actually cleaning up the cars and delivering it. So and that's kind of everything that I do. So it's all on the business task that I'm doing. It's a good problem to have.
If you came on here and said, yeah, man, I just cleaned 3 cars.
But I wish I would. That's hilarious.
I cleaned 3 cars yesterday, man. This is going good.
That's a good point, bro. I would hate to. That's a whole different type of approach. Except some people might be having like, yeah, bro, business is going good. I mean, I only had like 5 bookings. I cleaned all the cars up, got it done. So, it's a different level of conversation. It's like there's an on the business task and in the business task. I don't do anything in the business. Everything is working on it. And it's like, how can we get it moving forward? And who do we need to talk to? Not so much about how can we come up with it, but who's the right people to talk to get us in that next direction.
Yeah.
And last thing I wanted to mention, there's a company called Acura. I'm very, very, very big on them. And I feel like nobody else is, but that company is like literally the gatekeepers to what happens in the car rental industry. So like when it comes to like laws being made that affects how the industry is ran, they are the ones that allow it to happen or that propose new bills in order to implement into the car rental industry to help us out more. I'm actually a part of that. I was on a call with people that work for Enterprise Holdings, Hertz Holdings as well. Like used to like on the call with those type of people. And now that's why I'm saying you could get into those networks of people where we can, I can actually learn the ropes of like how I need to continue to build out my business. Like I said, previous episode, I can also learn how people have dealt with recessionary times just through those mentors and things like that. And that's been one of my biggest things. That's why I bought Acura up. I've been seeking out who knows the next level of information. It's not the people that taught me Turo or people that taught Hire Car. It's people that are operating at a high level as a car rental agency. Those and that have been doing it for years and have stood the test of time. I want to learn from those people. So that's why I'm seeking different information from different people. And that's how I'm continuing to up-level myself.
Yeah, whenever you have posted the thing on your story, I was like, yeah, those are definitely different people that you're learning from. It was the demographic was
man.
it looked a little bit like beige persuasion and
That's it, bro. And I was glad to be in that room because I said this is like with what I'm doing. I keep on saying that I feel like I'm paving a whole new path for a lot of people. And so that's why I definitely like being in those type of rooms, because obviously you see that we haven't made it to that room.
Yeah.
So if I can be the one that is willing to do what it takes to get there, then if I can learn for everything that I can from them, I can now bring that back and show other people how I got there too.
Yeah, that's real. I think you're going to impact a lot of people that you don't really even know about yet, based off of stuff you're learning and doing now. So that's going to be crazy to see later in the future how, especially once you give all the stuff you're learning now, that information, you package that up and people are able to learn it to that extent. I don't think there's anywhere else a person that has no experience with the rental car business could go and learn something and then scale it unless you put that information out there.
Yeah,
because there's probably no one that's done it like that out there.
I mean, you saw who's in that room. You don't see.
They're not doing it.
Right. Everybody
they're gatekeeping.
Right. So that's my thing. Is like, if I'm going to do something, that's just back to my personality. Whenever I do something, I'm going all in, and like that's been my personality for the longest. So even with this, I want to get to the top somehow, some way, and that's how you enter into that room and have that conversation to get within those people in that network, and now you can start having conversations about what can I be doing differently than what I'm already doing to get to that next level.
Yep.
And I think that's more of actually a business principle as opposed to just rental car space. It's just rental car space is the example, but you can do this in any business, I believe. Seek who's been doing this the longest, who has the right information to help you get to that next level. And once you know who they are, how can you infiltrate their circle?
Mm-hmm. I love it.
So that's been my business updates. How about yourself?
Man. So for those that don't know, if you don't know, welcome to the show. I'm in a business where I have a company that markets between people looking to get their house clean and people looking to get their people that know how to clean houses, and we match them together and we take a little bit off the top. Been in that business for the last 2 years, and this year is really all about just focusing on growing it. Like I said the last few episodes, just growing it organically as much as possible and without having to spend more money on ads and those kinds of things. But yeah, it's just something that is very, very, very I think important to do as a business owner, because at some point, you have to figure out how to grow organically. Every company has done it. Every company, has its own essentially brand, right? And that's what you have to be able to build if you want a big business. If you don't want a big business, then it's not that important. If you want a big business, then it's very, very, very important to do. So that's kind of what I've been focused on really for the most part of this year. And I think as that happens, then, we'll see kind of where we go from there. But also been thinking about adding another location. We'll see kind of if that's something that I end up doing in later this year or maybe sometime this summer, because I have the blueprint for each like adding a location, hiring people in a location, marketing for customers in locations. Like I have a blueprint for everything, so I could do that in any location. So I was thinking about doing that, and just to increase our revenue some more, and why not? But I don't know, we'll see. It's just something I've been kind of thinking of. But yeah, that's kind of what's been going on for me in the business. Nothing's particularly new, but I really want to get into our topic.
Yep,
for
looking forward to it.
As far as what we want to talk about, because it's kind of funny, because speaking of the business, like someone had asked a question. I think she posed a really good question.
Fact.
She had asked what we would do differently if we had to start from nothing. If we had no money, we starting over from no money. Kind of like Undercover Billionaire with Grant Cardone. If anyone's familiar with that show, it's a really good show. But I love this question because it really makes, and this is kind of goes back to what we was talking about earlier before.
Back at 21, what would we do differently?
Yeah, because that's kind of how that's how I look at this question. Like if I was back to the point where, just graduated college, have a job, and you make decent income, good income, and you want financial freedom. What would I have done differently? So pretty much going back to January of 2018, what would we have done differently? So it's a very, I think it's a loaded question. We could really talk this whole episode about it, which is what we'll do, because a lot of people will probably be in this situation, and it's like a lot of people look at our situation. It's like, man, they doing everything, like they doing what they want to do, like everything's great, like peaches and cream, roses, all that kind of stuff, right? But you don't necessarily know kind of what's going on internally. You don't know necessarily what's going on in the mental. You don't know the ins and outs, the day to day. Like you don't know how this stuff is. And I'll just say how our journey kind of has unfolded, right? For those that don't know. So in January of 2018, we had started, we graduated from college in December of 2017 as with engineering degrees, and we started our engineering jobs in January of 2018. And then from there, we worked those jobs and for a few years. But during that time, whenever we decided we wanted financial freedom, the first thing that we looked at was real estate, because real estate was the first thing that was presented.
Yep.
And it was something that, seemed like a great tool to achieve financial freedom, retire early. A lot of people did. A lot of people have used it to do so. And so we spent, a few months, about 6 months, just really focusing and studying real estate before making any moves. And then we ended up buying house hack rental properties that summer of 2018. And then from there, from 2018, we ended up buying a few more houses to flip and bought a couple more rental properties. And that kind of transitioned from real estate into business in 2019 to 2020. Right. Whenever, for me personally, I realized that I wanted more, like real estate was good, but real estate to me is better for building wealth instead of building cash flow and retiring early. And so for me, what I realized at that time was that business will be the best way to build cash flow. Business is the best way to leave your job and retire and reach level 1 financial freedom, level 2, and then ultimately level 3 financial freedom, right? That was what I had noticed. And so from that point, took a bunch of courses on different businesses. Y'all know how it goes. Like the first one that I got into was the trucking business. Ended up buying a course for that, ended up buying a truck, got into that in 2020, got into rental cars, got into vending machines a little bit, got into trading stock options in the stock market, got into mobile homes, got into the cleaning business.
You're missing stuff. There's still definitely more.
Yeah, it's probably still more, but you get the idea. Got into a bunch of different things just because it was like, okay, I just got to find that one. And then I ended up picking, obviously the business I have now, which is, people know it as the cleaning business. And that is kind of the one I focus on. And it allowed me to achieve level 1 financial freedom last year in 2020. After my business made $400,000 last year. And I was able to leave my job, replace my income. And that's kind of how I got to where I am right now. So it's been about 4 years now since, the conception of, which is funny, because it's a whole college degree.
Facts.
Of entrepreneurship now at this point. So it's funny. It's kind of the question, I see it as like, it's being posed as like, if you could do it, like imagine someone ending right after you graduate from college, you're like, oh, if you could do it again, what would you do different? What degree would you do differently?
Yeah.
Or like, what would you do different about your college experience? And it's like, yeah, that's kind of how I view this question. And so I don't know, what are your thoughts on that before I give my answer and then get into your
one thing I really want to shout out, because you mentioned how we studied real estate for so long. We did it for like the first couple of years, but I want to shout out this podcast. This podcast, I feel like, was a major catalyst for exposure. What happened was if you look back at the history of the podcast, we were going from individual episodes talking about general financial literacy topics, because that was kind of what our passion was at the time, was like just preaching financial literacy, talking about real estate a little bit along the way too. It was financial literacy too. It's like building your credit. It was getting out of debt. Financial literacy was what it originally started at. But all of it was still a journey, because what you started seeing was that our conversations shifted. We had financial literacy. It was more. Then we started talking a little more about real estate, and then we started bringing on guests. Those guests were initially financial literacy people. Then we started seeing, some people actually don't just do financial literacy. Some people are actually on the financial freedom journey of building a business to obtain their freedom at an earlier age. Those businesses are within so by us seeing that over and over, like, okay, wait, these are business owners. These are not just investors. These are like people that are running businesses to get that freedom faster. That exposure allows us to see, okay, that's another way to actually obtain our goals faster. So that's why I always continue to say this is a journey, because as you go from beginning to end, we had real estate, podcast influences business. So now we transition to business, and you just build those out. But there's still, even though you're building that out, you're still learning. We've still been learning, like, okay, this is how we operate a business, how we run a business. But we jumped into it based on what we had seen. Now that we know a lot more, we still can advise a different strategy, because we probably would have started with business had we not know. Had we started, I guess, if you answer this question about a year ago, we probably said start business before you start real estate.
Or how to house hack.
Oh yeah, I mean, no, we're gonna we haven't got to the whole flow of it, but house hack, that's a whole thing in itself. But I just wanted to shout out before you continued on is the podcast. I feel like was a catalyst to the business, which then led to other things after those. So that's the only thing I wanted to like add in there, because that started like a year into our real estate journey.
Right. Okay, yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with that. So okay, cool. So I guess I'll get into the answer, like what I would do differently if I was starting back 4 years ago, 21 years old, in that situation with just a job and I want financial freedom. Now, again, the most important thing I think to know and understand is that this is like a process that has steps and has stages and has levels achieving financial freedom. Like the formula to financial freedom, as we always say, is like, it doesn't change, right? It's always about, taking your, having a good 9-to-5 job and then decreasing your expenses and essentially using your income to invest in education and other opportunities and other things that will allow you to increase your income, improve your skills, increase your income. And then you can essentially replace your job. And after you replace your job, you're able to focus 100% on the thing that has helped you replace your income, so you can scale it beyond where your job income was, right? And we'll call that level 1 financial freedom.
Yep.
Once you have covered all your living expenses by whatever income that is not from your job, that is level 1 financial freedom. And then level 2 financial freedom is achieved after you're focusing 100% on that thing, because you no longer had a job and you're able to scale that thing past where your job income was. So if I was making $5,000 a month, I can leave my job once my expenses are covered, and then I can get to level 1 once I'm making $5,000 a month, again outside of my job. Then level 2 comes, after you focused on it, and then level 3 is essentially after you've done it for a good amount of years, right? And so that's an important foundation to understand as we have this conversation about why we were saying the things we're saying. So me personally, the first thing that I would do, and I'm sure Marlon will agree, is I would 100% without a doubt learn about real estate in order to house hack, right? House hacking is the most important thing and the most foundational thing. And I'm glad at that time, that's just what we happened to do. Not knowing the formula or anything. We're just like, yo, this is just, it makes sense because this is what I can do now. My situation, you do what you can do in your situation. And that was the most practical thing to do at that time, just because, it's decreasing your expenses is going to be pivotal regardless of really for anybody that's beginning this journey. That's like, regardless of where you start, decreasing your expenses is going to be important to do at some point, because you're going to need to be able to have a little more risk tolerance. And whenever you're doing this stuff, we just got to be real. And the best way to have a higher risk tolerance is by not having as many liabilities.
Yep.
And so obviously the number one biggest expense is your housing expense. So house hacking, I wouldn't change nothing about what we did in that regard first, starting off. And that to me would be the biggest number one step I would recommend everyone do. Like this to me, this episode is like a framework for like what you can do to achieve financial freedom. If you're like someone that, there's a lot of young people listening to this and you want financial freedom. Like anybody, it doesn't even have to be young. But I know there's a lot of young people that are in their 20s, whatever, listening to this. This is the framework to achieve financial freedom. So that's the first thing I would house hack. What do you have to add to that if you would add anything?
I just want to shout out that before we give you the whole roadmap, keep in mind that the things that we've learned along the way have influenced why we feel the way about that we do about the roadmap. Because a lot of people will say, what would you do differently had you start all over? I don't think that question serves enough purpose without saying, if you knew what you know now, what would you have done differently? Yeah. Because we went on a journey that we did, now we have a different appreciation for for the different ways to acquire the same end goal of financial freedom. And so it's really about having the knowledge base that we have along with just doing the actions, because doing the actions, you're just following a step-by-step process without really knowing the foundational philosophy behind why it's so important. Like, so I'm glad you mentioned talking about the house hacking part of why it's important to decreasing the expenses, because that was the first step of being able to take that, have a high risk tolerance to say, I can try something, I can fail, but my largest monthly expense is covered. That I'm agreeing 100%. Starting my first thing I would do after getting a 9-to-5 job, immediate education into how can I decrease my living expenses. And that would reveal house hacking, which now allows me to save the majority of the income that I'm bringing in order to go start taking more of that risk into other endeavors. So I don't know if you want to just go back and forth with it.
The only thing I'll go to the next one, but the only thing I will add is that the reason the education is so important, because a lot of people can hear this and be like, just go house hack, whatever. But you gotta the education with it is important because number one, I mean, if you're buying property, real estate, rental property, you have to know how to analyze deals, how to find a good deal, how to look for these things. You can't just be out here buying anything. So it's like,
that's huge.
We were like doing it, but we were like educating ourselves. It wasn't just like, we're just trying to house hack. No. Now, granted, at that time we didn't know that time it wasn't just house hacking and then we're going to the next thing. It was, we want to buy more properties.
Right.
So we had it in our heads that we want to buy more properties, but having that helps you buy good deals. Like I know you house hacked a great property your first time.
Yep.
I house hacked a freaking great property. I love that property. And then, the other property you house hacked is really good. The other property that I had bought was really good.
It's not a coincidence that we bought good deals both times, because we knew how to analyze it. And knowing how to analyze came from doing the actual studying the research and continuously getting educated before making that decision. Other people say, just go house hack. Okay, you can buy a house because a $300,000 house, but rents out for $800.
Right.
Now you'd be like, bro, this is a terrible situation. I'm still paying, and it's not appreciated. It might not be an appreciating area. Like you had to consider these things that you may not know about if you don't do your initial studying through like education and stuff. So that's why education part is the very first thing before you do anything. Right. Educate yourself in it.
Right. So, okay. So let's go to the next thing. So I might say something you probably will say a little bit differently, but I want to add this. I will say that if you don't have a high leverage skill or income producing job or something, I would say get that. I would get that. So personally, I would get like a sales job or a job where I am able to, earn a lot more and my earning potential isn't capped by a salary or whatever. Like I would get a job like that, like being a real estate agent or something like that. Not specifically, and this is just, it's a good to have. It's not necessary, but it's a good to have. And I just want to mention it here because it's the best spot to mention that. It's a good to have because having that extra income, especially while you're not paying rent anymore and all that, you're going to be stacking like crazy. And that is going to really expedite like everything else, because you're going to be able to invest and take a lot of risk. Not invest like in the market or nothing, but invest in education and other things like that, and be able to take a lot more risk than everyone, especially if you have a high income job or, anything that produces high income. If you have a job that pays well, good, that's totally fine. But a good to have is just having a high income like job in sales or something. So I just wanted to add that. So you can go to the next thing though. Let me know what would your next thing.
So this was actually, I was thinking about the order of it. This is when I would do it though, especially early on. Establishing a life insurance policy. That would be the next thing I would do, because that's something that we talked about only like briefly on one episode with Jake Jacobs, Jake Taylor Jacobs.
Talk about
infinite banking.
Yeah.
I would establish that early on, because the policies would be structured to a younger demographic, which actually is beneficial to you. And so just knowing what I know now, that'll be the way that I would, all the money that I bring in from my job would first get go past. It's like a pass through entity.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to bring in the income, push it over there, then pull it right back out. And that's going to allow me to have that money growing as I'm continuously building it up.
Yeah.
So that's something that that was an external thing that we just learned about on the journey. Like, hold on, that's an excellent strategy to continue to build your wealth up while you're still utilizing it. Right. So, and I mean, you can start off pretty low as far as your yearly premium. I would do like a yearly thing too. Yeah. Just so I can, but as I'm growing everything else, I would at least have that growing on the side. Right. So that would be my number 2. I like what you said about the, what's it called? About the high leverage skill. Mine would have been similar to that, but really, if you're answering me and my situation, that's kind of how I always looked at it. Was I had the engineering job at that moment. So with that in mind, my goal would have really been to find, or I had the engineering degree. So if you're answering me in that situation, I want to find a job that is not necessarily super time intensive, like something that I have a lot of knowledge in it, and based on how I saw 9 to 5s working once I actually got there. You're actually getting paid just for your time that you spend there, not necessarily for how much work you're putting in. So the way I was doing back then, I would finish my work in 2-3 hours. The rest of my day, I'm answering my boss, "Hey, got something else for me to do, man?"
Which is trash.
I'm literally asking for extra work, but I would have used that differently and said, okay, I'll probably add another thing to my plate, just so I can show that I'm still like working in the business. I'm not going to just not ask for nothing else, but I'm going to be more strategic and say, give me a little more work, but I still knock it out. But now I'm looking good on both sides. Like I can spend extra time that I have doing extra research, or continue, like as far as getting into my next thing. So I don't know, you want to start leading to it, or like what would be your next thing? But that would be how I would structure my work situation, though.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. So my next thing that I would do personally. And this is just me and my perspective, me and my just 2020 hindsight, right? This doesn't mean this is what you should do.
Facts.
This is also another thing. I'm not telling you what you should do. I know I said there's a framework for it, but I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying what I see fit. Now, this is just based on my temperament and my knowing me, knowing myself, knowing how I am as a person. What I would have did after I had a high leverage job like sales or something, I would have took the money from that and learned how to trade stock market options, trade derivatives in the stock market, trading options. The only reason I say that is because that is a very high leverage skill. And that is a skill in which you will generate a lot of money much faster than anything else you could do if you're going to trade your time for something. There's my personal opinion, there's nothing that you can do in trade, meaning like, if I'm going to trade my time for something, there's nothing I can do more than that's going to make me, unless I'm in the NBA, there's literally nothing I can do that's going to make me more than this. And even then you can make more than NBA players. Like Terry Ejiom makes $1 million a day. I mean, not every day, but she's made $1 million in some days. She makes 100K. I guarantee you she makes 50K a day. I guarantee you that. That's nothing for her. So to me, that is a skill that is a very high leverage skill that will never, ever, ever deteriorate. You can always guarantee you will make money as long as you have that skill. I can wake up and guarantee you, as long as it is a Monday through Friday and the stock market is open, I can guarantee you I can make some money today, regardless of what's going on in the world, regardless of what recession, market crash, whatever, because you make with trading stock options. For anyone that doesn't know, briefly, we're not going to get into it. But
that's a whole lesson in itself.
Yeah. Stock options essentially it's a derivative of the stock market, which a derivative is anything that's, not the actual thing. So if I want to trade shares in the stock market, I can go buy Apple at, 120 and sell it at 150, and I make a $30 difference per share. But that's, if you don't have a lot of money, you can't really capitalize on $30 per share. Maybe I buy 10 shares, maybe, but what's that going to cost me? That cost me $1,300 to make, what if I make 20 on 10, that's $200. So it's like, it's not the best ROI if I'm trading like the actual shares. So what people do is they'll trade the options, and an option is the right to buy or sell 100 shares at a different price than what the price is currently trading at. And that is a very, it's super leverage, and it's very risky. If you're wrong, you lose a lot of money, but you don't lose it. You can minimize your risk, but the upside is much greater. You're what you can lose is only what you put in, but what you can make is almost infinite. As long as essentially you're betting on the price to go up or down. And I'm oversimplifying it just because for the sake of the conversation. But if I think the price is going down, I buy call options. If I think it's going up, I buy call options. If I think it's going down, I buy put options. And this is a way to really, really maximize the ROI on your money, because it's just I don't know, they just make a lot of money. So there's people that make a lot of money doing this. Like I mentioned, Terry, this is a skill I would definitely take. I would spend a couple years working on until I had got that to a point where I can make 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 in a day regularly, consistently, just because that's a skill that you're always going to have that for the rest of your life. And I would develop that from month one of me. I would develop that after, once I got my house hack and everything.
Yep.
I would start working on that, and after work, studying that and putting that effort, because it's very hard to trade with a job, but I will be studying that, putting in a lot of effort in that, and a lot of time learning that market.
Yep, I would say the biggest challenge with the stock options is having to do it during the workday. I would say if there's a challenge to overcome, that's why my solution is actually just try to find something that's not super time intensive, because of the time demand that it takes to actually execute. Because you can learn after hours, but during the actual execution of being able to make something is during hours, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So that's the challenge. But to tie it in, my next thing I would do is actually very similar. I'm going to probably do the exact same thing, because I was thinking back when I first moved from Indiana, from my grad school, to Houston, I was doing exactly that. Yeah. That was one of 9 things I was doing. So when I finally settled down to one, I eliminated that one to go pursue the rental cars. But back then I was working remotely, and that's probably what a lot of people have an option to do right now, is work remotely, just based on the current, after post-COVID, there's a lot of remote jobs that are out there. So I would actually replicate what I was doing before, but actually be more serious about it and have a plan in place for how I'm going to leverage it. So my plan now would be, I have the house hack. That's eliminated the majority of my expenses already, the big sum of my expenses from housing itself. So now, what are the rest of my expenses like? Like, how much do I need to live off of? What I need to do is I need to build out what we learned in Set for Life from Scott Trench, is called my financial runway. I might build 12, even 18 months of reserves, because I have a low enough expenses to where I can set some money to the side while continuously pouring into the stock options that I'm doing. Before that, I should have been educating myself, though, being in the right, like investing in the coaching, investing into mentorships, whatever it takes to actually learn how to actually do stock options properly. Because I'm going in the same route of probably going to pursue stock options, because there's reasons, though. Number one is you can make money whether the market is going up or down. And so that kind of means that no matter what situation you're in, if you know how to do a good analysis and you can understand those trends that are going on at the time, there's still an opportunity to make money for you. More importantly, though, it's not tied to your personal likeness. That was probably one of the biggest things for me, because a lot of people that you see right now are like doing coaching and consulting, or they're like doing some type of just social media influencer. What happens is that if you ever decide to stop creating content, or you decide to stop coaching, your income is severely affected. With this, it's like, this is a trade time in for money type of skill, but it's a high value one that can bring you a lot. It can buy your freedom early on, because it's not the last thing, but this is what I would do next. As far as like the way to free myself from the 9-to-5, because my goal would be very small in the beginning. I'm probably looking to make $100 a day every time I trade. That'll be the extent of it, because if you do 20 days out the month, $100 a day, that's $2,000. Can you live off of $2,000? If you can't, then you need to continue to build that up. But that is my goal, is to hit that probably 3 months consistently.
Yeah.
If I can do that consistently 3 months in a row, that is whatever my number was to leave the 9 to 5 as far as cover my living expenses and still being able to reinvest and continue to actually be like build up my my portfolio inside of option with trading options. That would be my thing, is like I want to be able to cash flow enough to where I'm able to support my base living expenses. So now when I offload from my 9 to 5, I can continue to build up on what I've already have. So now I can focus all my energy fully on studying how the trends work and like spend a little bit extra time of doing that to build up my per day number.
I think that is key, because the thing about like trading in the market and stuff is it requires, like, anyone can get in the market to get in there. I mean, you can make money one day, like you make money 1 week, but to consistently make money every day that's once you can do that, that's when you know you've developed a skill. So it would take a few months of consistently making money to prove that to yourself that you've developed that skill. So once that has happened, then you could leave your job after you can make money consistently from there. You can leave your job, focus on that full time, because yes, you'll make a lot more and the opportunities are much better if you're there or intentionally focus on him all day, like at least throughout the hours of the market being open, between 9:30 and 4 Eastern time. And so if you're able to do that, I can guarantee you within a year, 2 years, you will easily be at level 2 financial freedom. So level 1 financial freedom is, like I said, once you leave your job, you will do that. You can do that off of the options after probably 2 years. I would say max 2 years. I don't know. Everyone's different, but
right.
Who knows how long it would take. But it would take you some time to become consistent. And that's the thing. You just had to be willing to wait and go through that. So that's how I would do that until I'm, level 2 financial freedom, to where now, I'm making the $50,000 a month, whatever I want to be making from the stock market. Once I'm there and I've been doing that, the next thing I would do is definitely take that money and start investing it into assets, right?
Yep.
So probably the number one thing I would do is, start buying real estate. And not necessarily even me learning about real estate and buying it and like flipping houses and doing active real estate, but more passive investing.
Yes, Lord have mercy.
And ownership. I want to be a limited partner, right? I want to own the assets. I want to own the apartment complexes. I want to own, the multifamily properties. I want to own all that. So I would invest my money in other people's deals, and partner with them, and I would do a bunch of those deals, and that would produce income, from cash flow from real estate, whatever the case may be. That is probably, again, that would take a level of education that you would need to have. So you don't need to know as much as the person actively invests, but it would take a level of education to actually know, what a good deal looks like, that kind of stuff as well. So it's not like you're just doing things blindly. Like, let me just go put 50,000 in this deal. No, it just takes some education, and then I'll invest in that, me personally. And another thing I would invest in is, businesses as well, buying businesses. Mm-hmm. Businesses is a great, asset as well, because, whenever you're able to own any asset without having to necessarily work, that is what passive income actually is. Just because you have a business that you started, that you work in, that you make money from, doesn't mean it's passive income. If you're the CEO, it's not passive income. That's your job. If you're the owner, it's not passive income unless there's another CEO in place that handles the majority of the business and the vision and moving the business forward. So that's kind of what I would do next.
Yeah. I mean, we're pretty much in line and sync, because as I'm able to support my base living expenses and really start building up substantial cash flow from the stock options, now I'm going to be looking towards other education, because like I said, stock options, while it's going to yield you a lot of immediate income, it's going to be what you have to trade in your time for. I also want to say the foundation is that I'm always looking for time freedom. So that's my ultimate goal. I want to be able to have a say of I want to be able to do whatever I want when I want. If I want to take a month-long vacation and do absolutely nothing, I want to be able to do that and still have income coming in. So this is where now I'm looking to passive income streams, not And so what you'll find is that both of us are not going to say build a business, because that's not passive. Building a business is probably one of the most active things you can do, because you have to really think about how to get the business up to the point where it is a franchisable, scalable, sellable model. And so what I would do in that case, I would start studying, how can I acquire passive income? And that would be in a form, based on what I know right now, that comes in a form of passively investing into other people's assets, like you said before, like whether it's a business deal or an apartment complex deal, real estate deal, or whatever type. The people that we've had on our podcast are perfect examples. People that have built successful businesses or that run real estate deals successfully, I'll actually become their investor and start investing into their deals, because now they have the expertise. They are the ones doing the physical work of the business. Like, they're running the business. I want to be my ultimate goal is to be the investor in the cash flow quadrant, is where my money is not working for me. So I leverage the stock options to bring me in the income that wasn't based on my personal likeness. Yeah, because I can do it without having to be on social media or anything like that. Take that cash and now put it into a business or a investment that is going to generate me passive income. And if I can do that, replicate that enough times, now I'm able to build up a lifestyle of passive income that's coming in, no matter if I work for it or not.
And to that's the key. The key is it all starts with having, that high leverage income, and having that skill that produces that income, and taking that income, turning active income into passive income. And passive income is really cliche, but understand that passive income is truly passive income when you're investing in assets and don't have any involvement in the day-to-day of it. That is true passive income. And that's only going to come by investing in things, not building something. When you're building something, that is going to require active work and time, day in, day in, day in, always to some degree. Like I said before, if I'm going to trade my time, I want to be doing something that's $10,000 an hour, not something that's $30, $40, $50 an hour.
Correct.
Right? Because if I value my time a lot more. So for me to get me to say, sit here and do this, whatever it is, it needs to pay me. It needs to pay me. And trading pays. Trading options pays if you know what you're doing. You can get cooked.
It pays and takes away depending on what situation.
Let's be running. And that's why I say it's going to take it could take you a couple of years to learn the skill.
Yeah.
But that generally is going to pay off. It's going to pay off. I don't know how long it'll take everyone's doing, but it'll take time. It'll pay off. And once you can make that income, you're going to be making so much money that you're going to need somewhere to put it. Mm-hmm. So you're going to be looking for places to invest your money. Another thing I would do is investing into dividend paying stocks. That's a great thing as well, because that's business ownership, except you're owning a business that's paying you a share of their profits. So it's another way to invest as well. So those are things that will continue to pay you regardless of whether you wake up or not. Trading, I'm gonna always have to wake up and trade and do that. That's the only way I'll make money trading. But like I said, I'm totally fine with that if it's a high leverage thing like that. So that is what I'll do in that regard. And then with the business, there was something else I was gonna add to. Business, real estate. I guess stocks was the only thing, building up that portfolio of dividend stocks. I think that would be my biggest thing. What did you have to add?
I mean, my biggest thing for after this is all said and done. So I actually want to reference back the same episode later on, because keep in mind, this is still the journey. So this is what we learned up to this point. Answers again at 29 or 30, we might add to this list, or we may get modified some. Yeah. But based on what we know now, based on that initial question, if you know what you know now, back when you were at age 21, this is probably the different path that I would go on. I would say with the business side of purchasing or acquiring businesses, the difference between what I know now and what I would have known, that's why I said I keep on putting a stipulation. If I know what I know back then, or if I knew back then what I know now, that's the key piece, because we have the business acumen to be able to evaluate, is this a good deal based on different metrics. So even if you don't have the business acumen, this is why I would say educate yourself. Education is the absolute key. So it may not be education from experience, but education from somebody who's teaching about what a good business deal looks like. And that would be my new pursuit if I don't have the business acumen already. But I think by us doing it, we now have a certain level of entrepreneurial thinking that allows us to think in advancement rather than in operation.
Yeah, and that's why, again, everything, I believe it all happens the way it happens for a reason. Everything unfolds the way it unfolds for a reason. Even though you in your brain think, okay, I should have did this at this time, but you don't necessarily know how that would have affected something else. So everything happens for a reason, because now you have a knowledge or some sort of perspective that will help you in this other pursuit, although it's coming at a different time. So some people might ask, well, if you know that now, why don't you go do it? Well, I guess you just have to wait and see.
Stay tuned, dude.
So
anyways,
but yeah, that is we had actually got that question asked to us by someone, and we definitely wanted to answer it on the show. So
that's your answer, monopolizers, right there. We have made a whole episode dedicated to it.
That's it. So yeah, I don't think there's anything else I want to add to that. I'm pretty confident in that answer. If I had to lock that in at this point in time, I think I'll lock that in.
Is your final answer?
Yeah, if I had to lock that in, I think I would be confident saying. Now, like
I'm locking it in today. I'm not. This is no guarantee for future me.
Yeah,
because back then in 2021 me, I was real estate.
Yeah.
But this is it's a journey. So the destination stays the same. The journey may change. So that's why we said don't take this as what you should do, but based on what we know now, this is what we would do.
Yeah. This is, to me, the blueprint. And, like I said, just stay tuned and watch. You never know what may happen. But yeah, that is it for this episode of the Money Monopolizers podcast. New episodes will be released every Thursday and will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Just search Money Monopolizers wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, we'd appreciate if you rated us 5 stars and left us a review on Apple Podcasts. We post informative content on there that keep you engaged. So be sure to check that out and share those posts. But until then,
you've been listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. To learn more about how you can be in control of your money, visit moneymonopolizers.com. We'll catch you next time when Alex and Marlon share more personal finance and wealth creation tips with you. Now it's time to take action.